is amazing. 여러분, 사랑해요. We're here for a philosophy lecture, but not just a lecture, also a discussion here in the open air. Are you ready to participate with me in a discussion?
May not be true when we're talking about non-material goods, human relationships, civic duties and obligations, teaching and learning. In these non-market relationships, introducing a cash incentive or disincentive may actually change the value and meaning of the goods at stake. And if that's true, then in order to decide where markets can serve the public good and where they may crowd out values we care about, we have to consider more than simply matters of economic efficiency. We have to ask about the attitudes, the values, and the norms that define certain goods, civic goods, educational goods, for example, thank you notes. And we have to try to figure out whether introducing a monetary incentive will actually erode or corrupt or crowd out values worth caring about. This means that economics cannot be separated entirely from ethics, from moral considerations, from deliberation about what values, what attitudes, what norms are appropriate to certain goods and activities. I'd like to ask you about one last case. It involves military service. During the U.S. Civil War, the North conscripted. Abraham Lincoln established the first system of military conscription. But there was a special provision in the law that said if you were drafted to serve in the Civil War and you didn't want to go, you could hire a substitute to take your place. And many people did hire substitutes to take their place in the U.S. Civil War. Another provision of the law allowed you to pay a certain amount of money to the government and to be released from your obligation of military service. Now, let's take a poll on this question. How many think that if there is a system of military conscription, people who don't want to serve should be able to pay a certain amount of money to hire a substitute or to pay money to the government to be relieved of the obligation? How many would favor such a system, a financial buyout of military conscription? I don't see very many hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I see about a dozen, maybe 15 or 20. How many object to allowing people to buy their way out of military service? All right, let's change the example to a Korean case. Now let's suppose there is a famous Korean pop star who is beloved in Korea and in other countries, who puts on concerts and who is in his 20s. Who should the pop star be? Rain. All right. I'll assume it's Rain. Or B. Now, Rain, by giving his concerts, brings great happiness to many people. Probably more happiness even than Lady Gaga. Do you think? And he also makes a huge amount of money. Suppose a law were proposed that said, if you are a big pop star, you can, so as to avoid interrupting your career, you can pay half of your yearly earnings to the Korean government in exchange for being exempted from military service. The Korean government would have a way of making money, and the pop star could go on bringing pleasure to millions of people around the world. How many would favor this proposal? Only about the same number who favor the U.S. Civil War buyout. How many would oppose this proposal? Most people would. Now let's hear first from someone who would favor the proposal. Who's in favor of it? Yes, tell us why.
Thank you for finally recognizing me. 한국말로 하겠습니다. 저는 학교에서 온 3학년 장현승입니다. 아마도 사람들은 이렇게 얘기할 수 있겠습니다. 요즘에 박주영의 사례가 아주 문제인데요. 박주영이 국위 선양을 하고 있다고 해서 군복무를 면제받는 것을 허락해 주느냐 안 해주냐 해서 최근에 논란이었는데요. 아마도 이걸 반대하는 사람들은 박주영이 국위 선양을 한다고 하나 모든 국민들은 다 똑같은 의무를 가지고 있고 모두가 자기의 위치에서 최선을 다하고 있기 때문에 박주영이 하는 일이나 박자가 하는 일이나 똑같다고 생각할 수 있겠습니다. 하지만 만약 박주영이나 팝스타들이 자기가 버는 돈의 반 정도를 기부해서 그런 사람들을, 그러니까 예를 들어서 만약에 돈이 없는 사람들이 나도 돈을 내면서 그러니까 면제를 받고 싶다 이렇게 하는 사람들에게 그 돈으로서 그 사람들을 더 나은 환경에 놓여져 있게 할 수 있다면 과연 몇이나 되는 사람들이 그것을 반대할지 저는 그것에 대해 의문이 듭니다. 그러니까 실리적인 차원에서 접근하자면 그것을 반대할 수 있는 사람이 과연 몇이나 될지 저는 궁금합니다.
Alright, let's try. We'll try. Stay there. Let's suppose that the earnings, the money, the revenues, will be devoted to helping the poor gain, how about this? Will be devoted to helping the poor gain access to universities so we don't have to auction seats in the universities. Or to help the poor in other ways. Let's take that proposal. That's what the money will be used for. Now does everybody favor the proposal? No? All right, so who would object? Who would object? All right, go ahead. Yes. Stand up. Who has the microphone?
Professor, I have the microphone.
And where are you?
I'm right here.
Okay. All right, speak speak to the proposal right here. Address, what's your name again?
장현승.
Chong?
현.
Chong.
Hyun.
Oh,
And
Chong.
Yeah, wherever we go. It's
Okay. All right, stay there and address Kyung's argument.
I would object because that would undervalue the value that we have of citizenship. And, well, he talked about Chuyong Park. I think not to say anything about
Go ahead.
well, Rain and Chuyong Park, they're all citizens of Korea before they are celebrities and sports stars. So I think that the obligation of them as a citizen of Korea should be valued far more than what they do.
They are citizens of Korea before they are pop stars or celebrities or soccer stars. What do you say?
네, 그런 측면에서 접근하자면 네 맞습니다. 물론 모두 박지영이든 뭐 팝스타든 똑같은 국민이기 때문에 똑같은 의무를 져야 하는 거 맞습니다. 그러니까 물론 이것을 주장하자면 여기에 대해서 정확한 기준을 두어야 하는 게 맞다고 생각합니다. 하지만 이런 의견을 주장하는 사람들이 주장하는 바는 박주영이나 뭐 레인과 같은 그런 팝스타들은 아주 극소수의 문제란 겁니다. 그러니까 이런 사람들이 그 국외에 나가서 그런 그 우리나라를 위해 할 수 있는 일이 2년 동안 그 일반 국민들과 그 동등한 위치에서 복무를 했을 때 과연 어떤 것이 정말 실질적으로 국가에도 도움이 될 수 있느냐. 왜냐면 2년이라는 시간은 그렇게 짧은 시간이 아니거든요. 축구 선수에게는 전성기가 다 지나갈 시간일 수도 있고 레인에게는 그런 popularity-를 다 잃어버릴 수 있는 거기 때문에 저는 좀 실리적인 입장에서 그런 의견을 주장하고 싶습니다. Thank you.
It sounds like you're winning some supporters. But I didn't hear your answer to the challenge that this would cheapen the meaning of citizenship. What's your answer to that challenge?
이거는 누구의 그 시티즌십을 더 낮게 취급하고 더 높게 취급하고의 문제가 아니라 각자의 위치에서 더 국가를 위해 국위 선양을 할 수 있거나 국가에 더 큰 도움을 줄 수 있는 그런 차원의 문제라고 생각합니다. 그러니까 어떤 사람이 더 예를 들어서 더 높은 위치에 있고 더 천대받는 위치 뭐 이런 입장이 아니라 각자의 위치에서 자기가 최고로 할 수 있는 것을 더 국가에게 한다. 이러면 국가 입장에서도 오히려 그 사람이 최고의 노력으로 국가에게 도움이 되는 것이라고 생각하기 때문에 저는 이렇게 생각합니다.
All right, so this argument seems to be winning more and more adherents. Who has another reply? Up high. Let's take one up high. Go ahead. Let's get a microphone to someone sitting up there. Let's pass the microphone along so we can hear from someone up there who objects to this argument. The argument that we've heard is it will actually benefit Korean society more to use the talents of the pop star or the soccer player to raise millions that can be used to help poor Koreans. What about that? And that is an expression of citizenship too. What do you say?
Afternoon, Professor. My name is Nama Hong. Just call me Hong, sir. 교수님이 앞에서 얘기하신 시장적 가치하고 비시장적 가치가 있다고 앞에서 얘기하셨는데요. 그 얘기하신 가치가 지금 비가 이렇게 공연을 함으로써 벌어들일 수 있는 돈을 나라에 제공함으로써 얻을 수 있는 건 어떤 면에서 시장적 가치라고 볼 수 있다고 생각합니다. 근데 군대에 남자들이 감으로써 지키게 되는 나라 국방의 의무, 그리고 또 군인으로서 복무함으로써 나라를 지킨다는 의식, 이런 것들이 만약에 이런 비시장적 가치가 시장적 가치로 전환하게 되는 순간 군대를 가는 사람들은 스스로에 대한 군인으로서의 의식이 낮아질 수밖에 없다고 생각합니다. 내가 군인으로 가면서 나라를 지키기 위해 군대 가는 게 아니라 내가 지금 돈이 없어서 이런 관점에서 바라봤을 때 과연 국방력을 논할 때 군인 스스로에 가진 마음이랑 의식이 약화됐을 때 과연 우리나라의 국방력이 증대될 수 있는가 저분께 질문을 드리겠습니다.
Stay there, keep the microphone, what do you say? And speak directly to him.
Where is it?
Because he seems to be swaying quite a lot of people. So here is your chance to try to persuade him. What do you say?
저도 지금 이제 19살이고 2년 뒤면 아마 저는 축구 선수도 아니고 레인 같은 탑스타도 아니기 때문에 제가 뭐 예를 들어 슈퍼스타 K 같은 거에 나가서 우승을 하게 돼서 그런 일이 일어나지 않는 이상 저도 무조건 군대에 가야 됩니다. 하지만 그러니까 대다수의 국민들은 그러니까 의식의 문제인데 이것을 그러니까 자기 입장에서 오히려 너무 이기적으로 생각할 수 있다고 생각합니다. 그러니까 물론 그 상대적 박탈감은 느낄 수 있겠죠. 예를 들어서 저 사람은 노래를 잘해가지고 나는 이렇게 군대에 가가지고 이런 뭐 삽질하고 막 이런 거 하고 싶은데 이거 힘들다라고 생각할 수 있습니다. 하지만 어떻게 조금만 더 의식을 전환해 생각해서 솔직히 말해서 레인 같은 사람들은 극소수에 지나지 않거든요. 그러니까 그 사람이 오히려 그 나라를 위해서 더 일을 해서 나라가 더 그거에 대해 득을 받게 돼서 그 득이 나에게 또한 돌아온다고 생각했을 때 굳이 그 사람들이 그 나에 대해서 이런 그 나와 똑같은 위치에서 하지 않기 때문에 그런 박탈감도 느끼는 것은 조금만 더 좀 양해를 조금만 더 너그럽게 생각할 수 있었으면 좋겠습니다. 그런 문제에 대해서.
What do you say?
말씀하신 바 잘 들었습니다. 저희가 지금 토론하고 있는 주제는 무엇이 옳다, 그르다 정해져 있는 문제가 아니라 애초에 사람들이 얼마나 더 공감하고 어느 쪽으로 동의를 하는가에 따라서 우리 사회가 정해가면서 그 규정을 정해 나가야 될 방향이라고 생각합니다. 물론 말씀드린 바대로 더 가진 사람들, 재산 많은 가진 사람들, 예를 들어 삼성 기업의 아들 이재용 씨가 한 2억, 20억을 기부해서 전투기를 예를 들어 샀다고 합시다. 전투력이 그 사람이 군인으로 입대하는 것보다 훨씬 강화될 수 있겠죠. 근데 그것이 과연 그 효용 면에서 바라볼 것만은 아니라고 생각되는 게 아까 앞에서 교수님께서 말씀하신 비시장적 가치와 시장적 가치의 면에서 장기적으로 우리나라가 국방력에 있어서 한 사람 한 사람에게 극소수 사람들의 케이스를 끌어 가져왔을 게 아니라 모든 사람들, 사회 전체적으로 바라봐서 그것이 어떤 영향을 사회에 끼치게 될지 그거를 바라봐야 된다고 생각하기 때문에 저는 이걸 극소수의 사람이라고 그거를 특혜를 주거나 이런 익셉션을 줘가지고 넘어가야 될 문제가 아니라고 생각합니다.
Alright, I want to thank both of you for a really great argument. What this last disagreement has brought out is an important feature of arguments about markets and where they belong. One argument that we heard says the public good, the common good, consists of weighing, of adding up the various contributions, including monetary contributions. And the competing argument says we can't compare the value of all contributions in monetary terms alone. The second argument says there are certain values, non-market values, in this case, civic identity and civic obligation, that can't be reduced to market terms or to monetary terms. And even if it's true that the poor or the society would benefit from having that money more than they would benefit from Rain's actual military service, that everyone be required to perform that service is an expression of shared citizenship on non-market values. So that's the debate we heard. And that's the kind of debate that is necessary anytime we are trying to decide where market principles and money will serve the public good and where they may crowd out other non-market values worth caring about. We've talked about many goods that money can't buy. We've also talked about many goods that money can buy, but arguably shouldn't. And we've talked about the possibility that sometimes markets change the character and meaning of the goods they exchange, sometimes by corroding or crowding out non-market values. One important non-market value that markets and money threaten to erode these days in our societies is a certain civic good. Here's the risk. As money has come to buy more and more in recent decades, and as inequality between rich and poor has grown wider, there is a tendency, I certainly see it in my country, and I think in many democracies. You will know better than I whether it is a risk in Korea. But what I see is a growing tendency for rich and poor to live separate lives. Increasingly, we find that there are fewer and fewer public occasions when people from different walks of life, different social classes, meet one another, encounter one another in the ordinary course of life. Fewer class-mixing institutions. As money buys more and more, at a time of growing inequality, we live and work and shop and play in different places. Do rich and poor. Our children go to different schools. And this poses a danger to our shared common life. Democracy does not require perfect equality, but it does require that men and women from different backgrounds and different classes encounter one another in public places and learn to live with one another. Because this is how we learn to live with our differences, how to argue together, how to reason together, and how to respect one another. And so the danger of a market society, the danger of putting everything up for sale, is that we may find ourselves drifting apart rather than sharing a common life. And so the question about markets is not in the end only an economic question. It's really a question about how we want to live together. What kind of society do we want to create? We've had one of the impressive features of Korean public life, to me, as a visitor in recent years, has been a growing debate about the meaning of a fair society. Now, not everyone agrees about what fairness means. Not everyone has the same conception of a fair society. But the fact that you in Korea are debating this question as one of the central questions of politics, that is a healthy sign for democracy. As we've seen here tonight, fairness is one reason to debate the role and reach of markets and money. But there is also the question not only of the fair society, but of the good society. And this goes to the second objection that some people raised to the use of money in markets. Not only that in some cases it can be unfair to the poor, if it's health care, for example, or access to an education. Some people said that money and markets can also corrupt or erode the purpose, the higher purposes of goods, the higher motivation of reading for the love of it. Or, in this last discussion, the higher meaning of what it means to be a citizen. So we've discovered really two different arguments for having a public debate, for questioning where markets serve the public good and where they don't belong.